Alright, hi people, sorry for the somewhat late start. We are good to go. How are we all today? It's actually pretty good that we are starting late because it takes a bit of time for people to come in. It feels like it's been a long time, a month to be exact, and here we are. We haven't done a lot of live streaming. We're back to work. I'm getting fewer requests for form checks. I've got like 2 or 1.5 at the moment. So we haven't done a lot of live streaming, and of course we do this once a month. So welcome to everybody to our monthly live stream. This is of course the Q&A for Archery specifically, and this is the chance for people to get some questions and answers done live. I just woke up, by the way, you can probably tell. We had a shoot today, and I don't know, I should be more attentive of our shoot calendar, and I'm really glad that we have regular shoots now. One of my goals as the club president back then was to establish a more regular shoot routine and cycle, so that way more people have a chance to train, practice, and develop their skills. Now, arguably, we've reached that, but in some ways, that's not necessarily a good thing because we're doing lots of shoots, but very little preparation for them. And I think the next level of the next milestone would be having more people turn up during the week and on Sundays and Saturdays, so that there's more things happening for us to prepare for a shoot. And one thing we're doing next week, we're starting our inaugural President's Cup. This was an idea which we raised, where we want to encourage more people to do casual shooting. And what I mean is, it's more for people to have some experience doing a short, structured shoot. So it's meant to be like a 30-meter round on an 80-centimeter face. Just give you some practice. So not too far, not too competitive. You submit your best 3 scores in a month, over 3 month period, and then the top person gets like a fun prize or a small token cash prize or something. So yeah, the whole point was to like shift away from just running like a big shoot or no shoot. It's more about having that midway point. Most clubs have some kind of league, and that's what we're trying to accomplish by the system. So it's meant to be accessible. Just trying to address that challenge of getting people who only turn up for like an hour on Saturday, to give them something to do. I think one of the biggest challenges for any of us is, especially club shooters, you turn up, you shoot, and that's basically it. There's no goal. For some people, they might shoot a round, but a round might take 2 or 3 hours, and they don't want to commit that time to archery, which is a shame because you kind of really need that time. And it's also there to kind of give people who want to shoot like lots of hours something to aim for. So if you're not shooting a round, then maybe you shoot like you have half an hour to shoot a mini round, like a 36-hour round. So that's what we plan to do. We'll see how that goes. We're hoping that more people would give it a go, have a public scoreboard where they can see the league standings. That's the current order of the day. I'm at the moment right now feeling a little wrecked just because we shot a round, which I didn't expect. We're just back to the original opening of this video. I'm feeling very sore, which is a good thing. And I shot a round which was fairly mediocre. It was a lawn system round, which is a 50-meter and 30-meter on the 87-meter face. And it was interesting because this is a round which I normally struggle at. It was nice to come back to it again. Scores were pretty terrible. Again, I'm still halfway through tuning a bow, and today was like the perfect day. Hardly any wind, incredible amount of sunshine. For a winter day, it was really nice. It was warm as well. I could finally shoot in a t-shirt rather than like stacked up with 5 layers. And that makes a huge difference. Except that when you spend like a season like not regularly training and then you go out and shoot, you can't. And that's something I'll reflect on a different time. But I'm seeing these scores which don't reflect my ability. I'm shooting fairly mediocrely at the moment. But I'm definitely feeling it, and something which, if you ever want to, think about your, tracking your performance, you also have to be realistic over how much training you're putting in. So that's from my side. I literally just woke up. I had a pretty big nap, and I woke up just on 8:30. So I knew it was happening tonight. But here we are. So how are we all today? We saw Zip in the chat before talking about personal best was that an 866 for the junior camera and a 545 for the World Archery Indoor 18 meter, which is a really good result. So the indoor is 600 maximum, so 545 is excellent, especially for your age group. And an 866 for a junior camera, max score is 900. So that is a really good result. I'm probably looking forward to seeing you do really well in these state events. Sounds really good. We'll cover a few questions. We did release the questions a bit late this time, but we've got quite a few things to go through. And as usual, we probably get carried away talking about many things. I did make sure to have a bow here this time, so I have something to demonstrate with. I'm falling behind on bow reviews. I've got so many things to get through, but I'll hopefully get through these as we get closer to spring. That's next month. Longer daylight hours, which means more shooting, more chance to film. But I'm trying to prioritize a bit of trading more so than filming. Let's see how we go. Sorry. So, quick question in the quick question for Lanta. The 1,000 arrow challenge is an actual thing. It doesn't matter what distance you shoot at, but the point is you shoot 1,000 arrows. It's an endurance test. Obviously, if you shoot 70 meters, that's like similar to training for a real event, but that's a lot of walking. It is meant to be a personal milestone where you do shoot 1,000 arrows. Remember, when you shoot 1,000 arrows, you've also got to pull 1,000 arrows. So it's something which it's actually not a bad idea, but it will take like a long time. Like imagine competition, like it's a normal competition might be 144 arrows. And you're doing 1,000 arrows. The competition might take like 3 or 4 hours. So you probably want to do a short one, so that way you can pick it up pretty quickly. But that's meant to be like a personal test of endurance. Something that's worth thinking about. Not sure if I cover it on a YouTube video, but that's something you can do. Question from P3 Gaming. How loose is normal for an RLF limb when unstrung? It's meant to be loose. So this is a question which somebody asked later. Right, might be you. I'm not sure if it was you. But when unstrung, it should be quite loose. Let's see if we have an example. Here we go. I told you I have stuff lying around. I've got a limb over here. I didn't have an unstrung bow. I don't want to string one right now. But I do have a spare ILF limb lying around, as we do. And I do have an ILF riser. Alright. So let's make this work. So when you talk about the ILF system, it might feel, and I think a lot of people who first start archery with ILF are thrown off at how loose it's meant to be, because it seems logical that the limbs should be tightly in the pocket. That's what makes the bow work, right? But what you don't realize sometimes is that you slide it in. See that? That's correct. Alright, it's meant to be loose. So don't expect this to be tight. That's not how it's meant to work. So it is meant to be this way. And the whole point is when it's strung, the limb on the limb pocket side, it will be strung, it'll be forced backwards, and it will push against the limb bolt, which is why it's there. So at full tension, which I'm not showing you right now, but it's held in place by the string with both limbs being strung up. But when unstrung, it is meant to rattle, and it is in many cases meant to come off very easily. So that is what you're meant to do with the ILF limb. So that's the first very quick question there. And we'll go back to that a bit later. We'll get to the actual questions. I think somebody asked a very similar question there. Welcome back from the Asian Games Recurve final. Very good. As in, like, were you watching it or were you actually in it? So I've been following the Recurve event, or the event at all. What's my average shooting 72 arrows at 30 meters on an 18 meter target? I haven't done a full round before on an 18 meter target. Let's say, look, if I were to extrapolate from my data, I'd say I'd probably shoot at my peak, which wasn't that much, I'd say that would probably be around a 640 on a 72 round on a 30 centimeter face. We don't normally shoot 72 arrows at 30 meters. It's meant to be like a 36 arrow round, or half round. But I'd expect on a small face around 600, 640. And that's back when I was shooting well and more regularly, not at the moment. So yeah, that's how loose it's meant to be. I should actually check my chat rather than looking at the feed. What rise is that? Sorry, it's a good question. What I was holding it for, which is camouflage down here. This is the Samick Bear Hunter. There's a current version now called the Samick Discovery. I haven't reviewed this before. It's just been lying around. But this is the Samick Bear Hunter. It's an aluminium field riser. It's very similar to the Black Wolf, except aluminium. Speaking of which, there is an aluminium version of the Black Wolf now. The Black Elk, I think. Oh, thanks, Zip. I'll check it out. Slow motion camera on your club. Awesome. In fact, I'll paste it into the thing right now. I might have a little bit later. Okay, I do see. I might show it later. Okay. Have I tried 3D before? No, I haven't. There are a few 3D clubs around here, but I haven't personally done so. Alright, so let's go to our first set of questions. I reckon we'll fly through the Facebook ones first, or a few ones of those, although I imagine these might be some really good questions. Let's have a quick look through my list, once it loads, of course. Where is it? Where is it? Here we go, got it. And we're good. Okay, let's go through some of these together. We go from newest first. Alright. So, let's have a go. Yeah, sorry, P3, yes, that's what's meant to be look like. Yeah, nothing to do with tiller. They're meant to be quite loose when unstrung. Let's flip our camera over and let's have a look at some of our stuff. So, going from the top, Tom Rob, you recently tried the VR with Nano TFT. Do you recall what the factory setting for the limb bolts was? The answer is no, I don't know. The bow wasn't mine. I borrowed somebody else who obviously had configured, so I don't know the original settings. I've already answered this question, but yeah, I can't really tell people what the original settings were. Even if it was mine, I wouldn't remember. So, unfortunately, can't help you there. Sam, I've been shooting for almost 2 months. What would be a reasonable shot grouping distance to set as a goal to aim for? So, good question. 2 months. In 2 months, which isn't a lot of time. A lot of people shoot with us will stay as like come and try for like 3 months. So, in 2 months, you're probably graduating from 10 meters. If you're shooting with a regular club bow or a bear bow, something very simple, at 10 meters, on a big face, you should expect to get the center probably like 90% of the time. That's a pretty good standard for 2 months. At 10 meters. At 15 meters, you might start dispersing a bit, but you're probably aiming at 10, 15 to 20 meters over 2 months. I would expect after 2 months that you would have enough confidence and proficiency to hit that gold ring at 10 meters nearly 95% of the time. It might sound like a lot, but that's actually a fairly mediocre warm-up distance. 10 meters isn't anything. When you start archery, 10 meters is incredible. Like, you're just trying to keep everything on target. But once you've learned all the fundamentals, all the steps, all the basics, you'd be surprised at how automatic it would seem to hit the gold every single time. And look, I've seen people shoot for 2 months and they're still spraying the target at 10 meters. I've seen people shoot for like 2 or 3 weeks, and they're just magically gliding things. They have the touch, they have the feel. So every time they shoot at 10 meters, they'll hit that gold magically. Except when it comes to competition, and when it comes to a knockout round or a fun contest, they collapse and they just shoot like a shotgun again. So yeah, I would say at 10 meters you should be able to hit gold most of the time, and at 15-20 meters you should be getting most of the time. Beyond that, I wouldn't expect you to do anything more precise until you get your own equipment. If you have your own equipment, then yeah, same sort of expectation. It does depend on what kind of bow you're using. People who shoot bare bow tend to take a little longer to start grouping. But if you're shooting freestyle, then I would expect a pretty tight grouping in 2 months. It also depends on how often you train. So if you're shooting like once a week, then it's going to be very slow progress. Quite a few people might start with a big like early commitment, but then kind of fizzle out towards later on. So yeah, being realistic, I reckon a gold grouping at 10 meters, 90% of the time at 10 meters, would be normal for someone 2 months out. Oh man, I should put some archery juice. I have no drinks at the moment, so I'm a little croaky. So yep, that is that first question. So just checking the chat for anything else. Good morning to David Novak. Yes, P3, when it comes to the limb, sometimes the thing will fall out. So, yeah, some bolts are very loose, especially with Hoyt, for example. Like, some of the Hoyt system, because it's on the outside of the limb pocket, if you just hold it, it just slides out. So, yeah, that's pretty normal. Alright, next one. Let's go back to our Facebook page. There we go. That was from Sam, Jean-Sebastian. I'm wondering if you ever tried a DIY recurve bow, if you do intend to in the future. Yes, it wasn't a recurve. I do have a DIY molly, the Molagabet. I'll get it right eventually. So one of my viewers, Julian, he did offer to make a bow for fun. He makes bows in his spare time and he shoots them sometimes, but he loves making bows. So I asked him to make a molly for me. So I do have it's so funny because I have what is a commercially made, professionally made bows, and I've got this molly which is like, it's not even finished. It's like it's handmade, hand tools only. Doesn't shoot that well, but it shoots well enough for a handmade bow. So yeah, I might feature it sometime on the channel. But yes, I have that. All right. Next question. Nishimura, do certain ways of anchoring work better for different face shapes? That's a pretty quick question. That's probably yes. So your face shape will very much influence the way you anchor. Now, everyone's face is different, and if you're using a facial reference point like a cheekbone or a tooth or your jawline, then depending on your face shape, it may or may not feel comfortable. So the short answer is yes. There are somewhat better anchors for certain face shapes. This is more so if you're shooting a traditional style, like a thumb draw or a Mediterranean draw, where you anchor a little higher. So people might find certain reference points more comfortable. That said, the fact that you're mostly basing your anchor on your bone structure rather than your face itself. So if you're anchoring a cheek, this moves around. Like you might have like different cheek sizes or how flabby you are, and your lips and your cheeks will move. Many people will feel a more solid contact point with bone, and there isn't that large a difference with bone structure. So you'll still see the same general trends and patterns in anchoring, regardless of your face shape. But for certain people, especially for the Olympic anchor, some people will follow a very distinct jawline. Others might find a harder time actually achieving that and have to do something else to get the right alignment. So that, yeah, like I said, short answer is yes. But it's not that much of a huge difference. Live question. By the way, hi Stephen, welcome from Ireland. You have a question, right? I'll get to it eventually. Space Jockey, where did you buy your string jig and what sort is it? It's a day cut. Yes, I've got it right here. In fact, I was just working my arrows. So I bought mine, I believe, from Archery Supplies. That's the Australian Archery Supplies shop. And yes, it is a decker. It's either from Pat's Archery or Archery Supplies. I actually can't remember where I bought it from. But I think quite a few things stock it. I know Urban and Melbourne stock it too. So yeah, that's the string jig, and that's the clamp. So yeah, I got this from one of the South Australian shops. I can't remember which one exactly. It's been a long time since I bought that. I know both stock it, so it should be fairly normal. Yeah, so yes, that is the Deckard string jig. Okay, last question then. Next one. Oh yes, yeah, P3. I've had limbs come off the string as well. It's weird. So yeah, sometimes they're too loose. It's not a problem when you string it, but when you are stringing it, it may feel a little weird. Okay, back to our live feed. Bing, here we go. Back to Nishimura. Is an Olympic style anchor counterproductive for mostly short range shooting? And again, the answer is actually yes. So one reason why Olympians tend to shoot with the low anchor point rather than the high anchor point is to get more elevation. Because you can shoot further. You can sight the same way, but shoot further because you're going from here to here. That's a pretty big difference. So at short distance, it does feel a little weird because you are kind of, if you're shooting like 10 meters, for example, you're kind of out of line. So you're kind of tilting this way with a pretty high elbow. Whereas normally you might be shooting at mid-range, let's say 30 to 50 meters. You'd be more inclined to shoot with a straight posture. So it does feel a little weird sometimes when shooting Olympic anchor at very short distance. It really wasn't meant for it. Can you? Yes, of course. When you're shooting like 18 meters, you probably kind of normalize. I find 30 meters was a pretty sweet spot, but back when I was shooting regularly. And that was actually what happened today. Like I shot 50 meters, and it felt very foreign because I haven't shot my bow at 50 meters before. Completely new sight setting, and I was spraying the target everywhere. I wasn't used to seeing the target and the feeling of 50 meters. Now, when I shoot my normal bow, my win, which is slightly higher poundage, I think 50 meters was a sweet spot, on a big face at least, because I felt that back muscle engagement correctly, and at closer distances it felt kind of weird. So it isn't just the anchor point which affects it, it's the muscle, your shoulder alignment, your elbow alignment, and the physical feeling of the back tension. As you get closer and closer, it kind of gets to a certain peak, and then you have to kind of lean forward or something to get the same effect. That's why shooting target in 3D are quite different, because in 3D you've got shorter distances, different elevation, so it will feel different. And I was saying before that at 50 meters I was shooting like crazy, like in a bad way, but at 30 meters it felt natural. I just banged it out and I was shooting golds again at 30 meters. It was like magic. So it just felt normal despite me shooting badly all day and despite feeling fatigued. I felt like I've been shooting 30 meters for so long that I just line it up there, bang it out. Even on a bad tension, it would still come straight. So, yeah, at certain distances, the Olympic anchor will feel a bit more natural. At very short distances, it will feel kind of weird. Alright, Noviado, that's a live question, was it? Let's have a quick look. So you've changed to an Alero, it's a Hoyt bow. With a rather high grip. I was used to the Win 2 grip. New limbs are 6 pounds heavier. Now I've got lots of string slap like a noob. Do you think this from the grip or the poundage? Probably both. The grip will feel different, therefore you might be torquing the bow a bit more or putting your hand in a different position. So yeah, a different grip can change the way you hold things depending on how much space you have, the high angle and so on. That can be a problem, but the poundage is probably the bigger contributing factor. Just the fact that you have a new set of limbs or a new bow with heavier limbs will often change people's form. It takes a bit of time to really acclimatize to the heavier draw weight. So I wouldn't expect this to be different for you. So it's likely a combination of both factors. Alright, back to our questions. Arnis, you've asked this question twice at least, and I've already answered this question. this will be a quick video if I ever do one, but it's a very easy answer. If you Robin Hood an arrow, sorry, my nasal thing here. Yeah, you know what? I need a drink. I will be right back very shortly. Before I go on, Robin Hooding, if you hit the back of your own arrow, the score you get is the score of the initial arrows. If you get, let's say, a 9 with your arrow, and you split that arrow, then you automatically get that score. So it's not where the arrow would have landed, like it might land at an angle, for example, but if you get a Robin Hood and the arrow hits the back of another arrow, then that will get the score of the arrow that it hit. It's a pretty easy rule, actually. There's no exceptions to it. I'm going to be right back, guys. I'm feeling really dehydrated because I just woke up. So give me a couple of seconds and I'll be back with something that's more like archery juice. Right, back. Sorry, guys. Yeah, didn't plan very well for this one, did I? It's been so busy with stuff that I haven't had time to actually sit down and plan out my Q&As. Oh. Nice. Oh, I've got cookies here. Cookies and milk, perfect. Might do later. All right. Okay, next question. Is Muhammad, what brand should I go for if I'm a beginner looking for standard bow? Hard to say. I love David Tyler answer, the most expensive and lavish one, of course. There's so many. I can't recommend a brand for a beginner. It also depends on what kind of archery you're doing. I might say that you should get like a Win or a WNS or an SF, but it depends on what kind of bow. I can't really answer this question. I can't really push a brand. Get something that you can afford. Get something that you can that you like. There are many common brands which a lot of people use, which are suitable for beginner to intermediates. But it doesn't mean I'll recommend it automatically. So, yeah, it's a bit vague. I'm not pushing brands at the moment. So, most archery equipment at the price range you see will be suitable, alright? So, if you see like a $300 bow, then that will be suitable for a beginner, regardless of brand. I've never come across a bow that I thought sucked outright. Maybe I have. I've done like one bad read for a bow. That was a bad kit. But yeah, I have, for the most part, just if you can afford it and it sounds like a respectable amount of money, it's likely a decent bow. So yeah, the brands don't matter as much. Most of the brands you get, depending on where you are, will offer the same value for money, and it won't be that bad. Zip, what poundage do you need to reach 70 meters? You can probably get 70 meters with a 30-pound bow on the fingers. Now, there's certain things which come with this, by the way. So it's not just a 30 pound can make 70 meters. Now, if it's a junior, if you're shooting with a light draw at like 30 pounds with carbon arrows, you may have to like reverse your sight, so you have more elevation to work with. You're basically clout shooting with a 30-pound bow, but you can shoot 70 meters with 30-pound bow. I mean, like I shoot like mid-30s on the fingers, and I can shoot 70 meters fine. So someone with 30 pounds can shoot. So I can just make 70 meters with a regular sight bar, so no fancy like tricks in reversing it. But a 30-pound bow, you may have to turn the sight around. Which means if I shoot like 30 to 40 pounds and I shoot 90 meters, I will have to flip the thing around. What I mean is that when you have your sight block, let me grab my Olympic bow this time. Got the unison. Okay, and what I mean is that when you have your sight, you normally mount it like facing forward, right? If you flip the thing around so the sight's actually facing backwards towards you, you have more elevation. So if your normal sight setting, even brought all the way in, doesn't get you 70 meters, then turn it around and mount it backwards. So you have more extension over here. So your sight is actually like here, over here somewhere, so that you can get the target or the sight set for 70 meters. So yeah, you can shoot 70 meters with a 30-pound bow. You can probably do it with less, but if you're doing target shooting, which I know you are, then a 30-pound bow can make it, though you might want to get a higher set of limbs at some point because you don't want to be flipping sights around and having this really big thing in your face, and have more fine adjustment for 70 meters. So, but you can shoot with 30-pound at 70 meters. Hopeless. Can you hunt animals with a bow like birds and balls? Yes, you can. Doesn't mean that you're like you should. Birds definitely. Balls, yes. That tends to be more of something you might use a compound bow for. Balls are very tough creatures. You will need quite a hefty draw weight to hunt ball, but you can hunt them with a bow. I mean, traditionally speaking, like they will hunt with a spear rather than with a bow. But in modern times, if the modern kind of broadheads, you probably could, but not exactly the easiest thing to go for. I mean, deer is a better target, so that's sort of medium game. Boar isn't exactly medium game. You will need a very strong bow. Not the best choice, but can be done. Yes, Jason. So good reference point there. So like we have the same drawing. We're so very similar builds. I think you're slightly longer than me, just very slightly. I'm pretty sure with 36-pound limbs, we can hit 90 meters. I mean, I've dropped my draw weight now, but yeah, like 40-pound can hit 90 meters, and look, 30-pound can hit 70 meters. I can hit 70 meters with a 32-pound on the fingers, with the sight mount normally placed. So Zip can probably do the same sort of thing. All right, back to our next question. This is a beautiful question. Christoph, how to distinguish between a bad shooting day from slipping out of archery form? I'm glad I opened with my shooting anecdote earlier. Okay, so a bad day versus just a slip in form. A bad day is a bad day. Let me get some hydro fluids. Oh. Okay. So, a bad day compared to a slip in form. So, what I described earlier in the opening, I shot my round today and I got a fairly dismal score. Now, a bad day is when you normally shoot well, as in if you score, you can see a much clearer picture of your progress. Sorry. So if you score, you see a much better picture. If you don't score, it's very hard to tell. So the first step is, if you're not scoring, maybe you should. Not everyone wants to score, and not everyone wants to shoot competitively, so this might not be your thing, but the one easy way to distinguish is whether your scores are being affected in the big picture. So over many weeks, are you seeing a drop or a flat line in your scores? If you are like having one bad day where your score drops by like 50 points or 100 points, that's probably a bad day. But if you are doing a pattern of many low scores, then something is going wrong. And for me, for example, I know it's a slip in form. I'm not having a bad day. I actually had a pretty good day today, but my average score is quite low. It's been slipping down over the last few weeks because it's been winter. I've been shooting as consistently. I've got new gear as well, which is complicating things. So I can see from my results that I'm not just having a bad day, I'm forgetting how to shoot. And that's kind of the mindset you need to go into. If you are doing your normal thing, but you're shooting poorly for some reason, it might be a bad day. If you just can't remember how to shoot, and this is happening over many rounds or many shoots, then that's a slip in form. So yeah, it's mostly how isolated your results are. If it's one time where you just can't figure out what you're doing on one night, then it's a bad day. But if it's unlike you, sorry, that's not right. If it's unlike you, you're shooting the way you don't normally would in terms of like results are dropping, then that's your bad day. If you are, over many weeks of experiencing, you're being flustered and you don't know what's going on, that's your slip and form. It's actually a lot easier than it looks, actually. It's not a very hard question. But it's mostly patterns. If you're working with a coach, then you'll probably identify patterns. For me, when I have my coach with me, which is pretty rare these days, I shoot really well from the coach, but I shoot really poorly without the coach. So, that's all they can tell, can help push in the right direction. But yeah, that's a fairly straightforward question, actually. It wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. So, live chat. Where are we? So, David, I'm reading your question. So, in Community, TV show, Manny had a good question, I think. So, was that? I was talking about my page. I'll go to the YouTube page a bit later. So I'll address that a bit later. I know you're talking about that. Let's get back to our Facebook feed. So that was Christoph's question. A bad day is a bad day. If you're slipping out of form, if you're having many bad days, that's probably a form slip. Have I tried the Limbs CXT riser? No, I haven't actually. I mean, when you get into this stuff, you often want to try things with different configurations. I don't have time. It's been so stressful. Not in a bad way, but like I've got work. I've got very few hours to shoot. With the winter season, daylight's so short, and even when I do shoot indoors in the shed, it's like I've got only so much time to get things done. Right? I haven't even finished my tune. It's been like a month, and I have to make the video, and I can't play around with stuff. It just doesn't feel right. It's just I can't experiment. I'm kind of frustrated sometimes, just because it's so hard to get things done in time that I have. That said, the answer is actually yes with the Nano TFT. So I haven't shot the Limbs with my win and win, but I have shot the Limbs on the other win and win, which I borrowed off me off Thorin. So he bought the Python, but we were experimenting with the Nano TFT. So we tried the Limbs on the Python, and we tried my Limbs on the CXT. The Nano TFT. The Limbs on the Python was so much better, but we're comparing like $1,000 limb to a $500 limb. So remember, my limbs are mid-level, not top level. Shooting the Nano TFT with the limbs also felt really good, but the limbs were a better limb. They were smoother, the arrows came out better. The thing with the Ukas is that they do push some good performance out from a mid-poundage bow, even at short draw length. So it's quite an efficient limb. So no matter what platform you use, the limbs, I think, perform better than you expect them to. But we shot them side by side, and we switched limbs around with the Nano TFT. Simply put, the limbs, the top limbs at the moment when I win, were just a better limb. It felt better and performed better. So yeah, it's more like the limbs perform better than you expect for what you would normally pay for. Whereas the limbs is generally better but cost more. That's my general feedback there. Field archery, I haven't done a proper field archery round. Do you think I'll be ready with the Python by Mirama? I didn't realize the Mirama Shield was like 4 weeks away. Oh crap! Like someone mentioned, we were shooting today, and someone mentioned 4 weeks. I'm like, what, 4 weeks? Yeah. So, goals. I have something to aim for now. So whoops, I let slip there. I mean, it'll be in September, right? So it'll start being live. That I'll get more shooting done. So I'm hoping, I'm more optimistic that I've got my things mostly together. Once I get to regular shooting, I reckon I'll be ready for my ramen. I just need to shoot like more than once a week. You know, combining of training and coaching and so on, because I have to run the line, which is kind of a little tough. Great day today, by the way. Had a massive turnout, 15. Oh, funny story. I'm not sure if you're watching, but we had what one of the people at our come and try session today was from France. He was visiting from France, and he watched my channel. He turned up wearing his Paris Saint-Germain jersey, and he said, "You're NUSensei, I watch your videos." I thought, great, someone came from France just to shoot in my club. He wasn't, but he just happened to be here. And sometimes when you get, it's not next week, is it? The ramen shoot isn't next week. What? Are you kidding me? Wait, what? No, wait, what? No, it's the 23rd. Are you lying to me here, Zip? Don't scheme like that. I need to register while I'm here. Sunday 23rd September. Yeah, it's next month, thank you. Next week, please. What's a round? It's a Brisbane round. So 70 meters. 60 meters, 50 in the small. Oh no, the small face at 50. Oh no, I hate that target. If there's one thing I dislike, it's the 50-meter distance on the 80-centimeter face. That is target panic inducing. I can't do it. I can shoot like, you know, 70 meters or 60 meters on the big face and enjoy it, but the 50 meter on the small face gets me. It's a bugbear. Oh my goodness, that'll kill me. But will I be ready? I've got a month. I need to register at some point. Who's in this event? It's a small field right now, but in the next couple of weeks, there'll be more people. I skipped last year's event, but I think this is going to be a comeback. I'm not sure I'll be ready for it. I've been out for so long, but why make excuses, right? So I think I might sign up later. But this sounds good to me. Hey, Pat Colin is here. He's coming from Adelaide, isn't he? That's awesome. He's like the national shooter right now for Compound. Has been for the last decade. Awesome. That's a pretty big lineup. That's like 20 people, but some really big names here. Yeah, I'm pretty keen to do so. I'm pretty keen. I've got time. I can do this. The arrows are mostly ready. They won't be great, but we need more pythons. We need more pythons. Morton, are you holding the draw weight? It's much of a lost interest in limb bending, like stacking. This sounds like a very specific engineering question. I'm not sure exactly the parameters you're talking about. Are we holding the draw weight? Yes, just from basic physics, like transfer of energy, right? I mean, like, yeah, some things are, you don't lose energy, they just transfer. You know, I get what you're saying here, like, you know, how much of it is, you know, converted to heat and sound and the materials, but, you know, like, if it's 36 pounds of fingers, you are holding 36 pounds. That's what makes everything bend. It might not be transferred full into the arrow, which is what the whole point of materials and limb construction is designed for. So better limbs will transfer energy better, but you are holding that weight. It's a very bad scientific explanation, but there's no reason why you wouldn't be. Alright. Doing pretty well so far, actually. Sorry, that's my I was just checking my ramen page. That's the event. So likely, I'm pretty keen to shoot a proper round now. But I'll get back to you. But I'm very happy to do so. All right, back to our thing before. So yeah, that's a crazy question. Philip, you've recently the books. I don't know about books. Is the USA Archery book similar in content? I'm not sure what this is. You might be referring to the USA training manual, the coaching manual. The answer is yes, in fact, especially now because basically runs the USA program. If there is a USA Archery book, it'll be very similar. Look, most of the archery books that you buy are going to be very similar. If you want to learn archery fundamentals, any coaching manual will get you the information. There'll be some variations in the way it's explained and the way you get to the end goal. So for example, Casey Lee's system is a little different from what you will learn in Korea. It will be a little different from what you learn from the FITA manual, but it's going to get you shooting consistently. So I don't have a particular book to recommend apart from Total Archery. There are others too. I mean, the other book I've read is The Simple Art of Winning by Rick McKinney, which covers his kind of style from his days. But again, every style can work as long as you practice, and especially if you can be coached consistently in that particular style. So there's no one better or worse style, so keeping that in mind. Robert Wong, which part of Australia do you think is the best side? I can't have favourites for fictional places. Rob, what types of wood have I tried? In terms of arrows, I guess, I've only done pine. I'm pretty sure I've got some other kinds of wood, but I don't know what they are. They're wood to me. And what kind of recreational games do you know, apart from like archery tag? I don't know many recreational games, although I've got to show you Swinburne Archery, because they've got hoverball, and this looks pretty cool. Swinburne Archers. There we go, that's hoverball. So, where is it? It was a video. Go back to the other one. So we had that's hoverball. Check this out. Check this out. Sorry, I've got some feedback with the thing. So this is hoverball. This is pretty cool. So you've got the machine which has the air that's pushing the balls up. You've got the soft tipped arrows, and you've got to hit the floating balls with the arrows. Which, look, I haven't tried this, but it's on at Swinburne University. I thought this was so cool. What a great way to promote archery as a club, as a university activity or college activity. That's awesome. Yeah, that looks fun. I would totally do this. I was thinking one day dropping by Swinburne University just to do this, but I worked, so I can't. But that'd be pretty cool. These guys are actually archers, not just like volunteers in the club. So I'm surprised I'm not hitting it. But imagine it's harder than it looks, just because you're using very heavy foam arrows. It fly real well, but hey, that looks pretty cool. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know a lot of recreational games, but that was a pretty cool one. Okay, next set. Going to the community questions. So I've sorted by oldest and newest, I guess. That's just resorted. Sort by oldest first. Okay, let's blow through this set. It's been an hour? Good. Okay. Form check videos, for those who don't know, I make them once I get like 3 or 4 submissions. I've got 1 right now, so I'm holding off. I don't normally do form checks for just 1 person. So if people want to get form checks, then just send me form checks. I normally schedule a time when I have enough. There's no point having like a weekly form check with no form checks. So send me stuff. If you want to get a form check and have more live streams, then stuff is very good. But yeah, I haven't done it for a while. More questions. Can I demonstrate how to make a DIY finger sling? Goodness, all you need is a bit of shoelace. Let's try this. Do I have stuff to make one right now? I need a sharp cutting object or a pair of scissors. This will, I've got a knife. This will do. Hopefully this will cut fine. So we'll get our knife here. You don't really need a tutorial. Like, this is so easy to do, right? Like, you don't need to do something to teach you to make a finger sling. I have some shoelace just lying around here. Let's see, let's grab some stuff. Okay, I have some shoelace. What I want to do is to cut a length, and you get it right eventually, right? I'm not sure how long this would be. Let's see, we'll get it around, yeah, about here. Easy enough. So you'll cut some shoelace. Hopefully everything goes right here. This is completely unscripted live. This should be a whole video itself. I should monetize it, get lots of money for it, right? So there we go. Get a little bit of shoelace, tie a reef knot. And there we go, finger sling. That might be a little too short for this one actually, but there we go. And then the second half, yeah, this is a little too short, but you get it right eventually, right? And do the loops. Watch my video how to tie it. But there we go. We should get it right there and there. So there we go. We've got a finger sling. It's a little too small as you can see, but that's the finger sling in like 60 seconds. Of course, I'm gonna shoot. It's like there's some spit archery stuff like around here, right? So that's to demonstrate something. There you go. That's a finger sling. Yeah, obviously make yours a little longer depending how big your hands are, but that's a finger sling. You don't need it. You don't need to have a tutorial on that. That'd be $10. Thank you. I mean, even you can use other things other than shoelace. You can use anything, any bit of ribbon, any shoe, any lace, you know, finger sling. We've used these ones before. These are the wristbands. All you do is simply get one of these and just twist it around, and there's your finger sling. It actually works. We've tried this before. So in an emergency, if you happen to sling and you have one of these lying around, you can do this instead. I've got a bow here. Let's actually show you. Alright, so I've got the NUSensei here, which I haven't shot yet, right? But you know, if you get this, put it there, give yourself a couple of twists, and there's your finger sling. And it actually works. It legitimately works. The only problem is that if you add too many twists to the elastic band, it will snap. So the really poorly made ones will probably just snap in half. But if you need one, it's a temporary measure. That works completely fine. See? So that actually does work. So yeah, like DIY finger slings isn't really a thing. Like I mean, every sling is DIY unless you buy like a $5 pre-made one. But yeah, that's not exactly the hardest things. David, no, I need to make some money, right? So yeah, I have to like mark up the price. You know, the lace is like 2 cents, so yeah, multiply that by like 200. Yeah, you know, no, yeah, of course. Let's see. All right, let's go on. All right. Next one from Nayanika. Will there be any problems for a beginner if they wear glasses? I wear glasses. Never had a problem shooting, ever, with glasses. So, no, absolutely not. Next question. Steven, that's your question. Now, you've been waiting for this, haven't you? Okay, so you've come across my videos after... Oh, this is the big question. I left this out. So, I've had several junior national titles, but then I think the transition to senior and going to college was too much for me. I recently picked up a second-hand VR Nano Max, very nice, for a bargain, just to get me going, and I'm very excited to be shooting again. So just wondering if you have any advice for someone going back to it after being away for so long, particularly for building strength. I've got an old set of 32-pound Hoyt CRX covered with limbs, which are bound to 35 on the fingers. But I'm looking for a used pair of 34-pound velocities, which I'm hoping will feel the same, if not lighter and perform better than my very old battered Hoyts. What do you think? You're pretty much on the right track here. If you're talking about, okay, what are the question statements? So one is the limbs. Are you also asking about conditioning or advice for building strength? Okay, so this is good choice, by the way. You're right, the Hoyt limbs, these were good limbs back in the day. These days, the SF limbs are pretty good. The SF Elites or the SF Velocity, if you can still get them, are a good pair. You can't find SF Velocity anymore. I think Win and Win discontinued them. But if you're going to use pair of 34-pound velocities, these are good limbs. So you're on the right track. We have someone in the club who is actually in the same position at the moment. So he has his Hoyt Avalon, which is a great bow in 2000, and he has an old set of Hoyt limbs. He shoots beautifully. He used to compete when he was younger, and now he's coming back, still shooting like a boss. He's amazing. But he's getting carbon foam limbs for the same reason. He's using an old set of wooden limbs. He wants a newer set, not top-end carbon limbs, but a decent set at a decent price, and I recommended the SF Elite. So the velocities are the same kind of range. They're very good for a source. I'm not sure you're talking about, Dave. I know Manny Sanchez, but we just went through the entire thing. I'll go back to the Facebook page a bit later, but if it's not submitted via the thread, I'm not going to answer it, all right? Because if I can't see it, I can't answer it. Sorry, Dave. I'll get back to it a bit later. Oh, that's your community, right? That's not one of the places I take questions from. Oh, wait. Is that from July? Oh, okay. I've answered this question, haven't I? I'll get to it a bit later. But this is from July. I'm not gonna. This is August. That's why I didn't check it out. So yeah. So Steven's question. Did I get a confirmation of that? Sorry. Yes. The velocity limbs are very good limbs. As far as advice for training goes, it's the same sort of thing as most things where you get back to sports, right? So you need to build up from scratch again, take it easy. But especially for someone coming back to the sport, you know the fundamentals. It's all about physical conditioning. For a lot of us, even regular shooters, we don't shoot often enough, so we have to regain not just physical conditioning but mental conditioning. Doing things like SPTs or drawing and holding exercises will help tremendously, and getting regular range time also helps tremendously. I think one of the general things is you should definitely dedicate time in your week, especially your day, where you have some regular sort of even like half an hour a day, which I personally should be doing, but I'm not, and I'm struggling because of this. It's going to be monumental. I mean, I can barely shoot around in good condition, and that's because I shoot once a week. I say a lot about how you should be shooting more, but even in my schedule, I struggle with it as it is. So yeah, make sure you allocate enough time for you to train, not just shooting, but just using the bow and getting into it. And if you're serious, you can add like stretching bands to increase the draw weight. Therefore, when you shoot your actual bow, it'll be a lot easier. But those are other things. So yeah, it's I mean, you're in the right place. And you're right. You don't need a very high poundage. And look, 34-pound limbs will get you to 70 meters, as I said before. So I think you're in the right track. You're doing well. You're choosing your limbs, and well done for coming back to the sport too. So you're right. You're good. Back to the set of questions. Hey, it's no unique again. If you cannot go to an archery range, it's a fun to practice at home with a soft archery set. I don't like the idea of soft archery set. So you talk about suction arrows and intermediate level bow. I don't like the idea of doing this, because what's the point, right? If you can't shoot at home because your parents won't let you, don't shoot. Use a training aid. Use like a Form Master or the Astra Shot Trainer. So like these things are designed specifically so you don't have to shoot the bow. You can practice your form and release, but you don't shoot the bow. You don't dry fire it. So I don't have the shot trainer here. Wait, do I? This is me, right? So I might have a shot trainer lying around. I haven't used it for a while. I'm pretty sure my shot trainer is here somewhere. I dropped off, but I do have a shot trainer here. But use a shot trainer. I would recommend things like the AccuBow, but you probably don't want to buy like a $300 like practice bow. But like a Form Master, it's like $50 or something. You wear it on a sleeve. It's basically an elastic band on your bow. So you tie it to your bowstring, you let go, and it holds it there, right? Let me actually show you since I have the video on it. Astra Shot Trainer. Google, and will I turn up? Yes, I will. No, I don't. Astra Shot Trainer. Hey, who's this handsome guy? Wow, 2013. That is a long time ago. Wow, I've been shooting that long and that poorly. Whoops. Okay, here we go. So you might want an Astra Shot Trainer. So instead of shooting your bow with a suction arrow, use one of these, right? You have the Astra Shot. It's a sleeve. You attach it to a clip which goes to an elastic band, and you let go. It just stops it there. So this might be a better option for training than using than using suction arrows. Because what's the point of shooting suction arrows? The point of shooting arrows is to attain a grouping which tells you a story as to what you are doing. Suction arrows won't give you that picture. There's no, if you're going to shoot an intermediate bow, a suction arrow is just as dangerous as a steel arrow. So if you can't shoot at home, I recommend a training aid like the 4Master or the Astra Shot Trainer, because they're designed exactly for that purpose. For when you can't shoot, but you need to condition and practice form. That's what you should be doing, not using suction arrows. Because suction arrows, I'm not sure what kind you're using, but you're not going to find properly spined suction arrows for your bow. And the whole point of shooting arrows is to shoot your actual set of arrows, not to shoot like some toy arrows instead. Kill wolves. Which manufacturer make the best arrows? Just being objective, the dominant company in the market is Easton. They make the majority of the arrows. And the majority of competitive archers use the Easton X10, and they've been dominating the market for decades. Doesn't mean that they're the only manufacturers. The Carbon Express company also makes excellent arrows. They're like the second, the most well known. So Carbon Express and Easton are your top two, but Easton basically is like 95% of the target market, and it makes so many good arrows for all levels. It doesn't mean they're the best either. I mean, you can still, depending on what you're using arrows for, right? If you're using arrows for like practice or for hunting, then there are many different kinds of arrows, but Eastern and Carbon Express are the top two brands. There are probably others too, but most people will know more about those two brands. Morton. Avoiding heat stroke, that's a general knowledge thing. I'm not sure if it's common knowledge, but like, it's not an archery specific thing, and I'm not the expert on humidity. I'm not living in a tropical environment. I'm sure there are other people who know more than I do, but as you would avoid a heat stroke or dehydration in any part of your life, do you really need me to make a video on how to stay hydrated and not die during humidity? It's like, we have like 40+ degree days down here in Australia. You don't really need me to teach you how to shoot in hot weather, do you? So doesn't seem to be a very particular question. The shot trainer, David, let me do a price check for you. We'll do Lancaster Archery, Astra. I just missed it. Here we go. The price is it's about $60 US. So that's about right there. So that's the shot trainer. Yeah, $60. And they got some demonstration videos. So yeah, that's the price range. That's pretty bad reviews. It works, by the way. Depends if you can work into your routine. So that's the shot trainer. There are many. While we're here, there are many training tools. Let's see what we've got here. So you can, if you want to use your bow, training aids. Let's have a look at what we have. Thanks, Dave, for reminding me. There are stretching bands. Oh, I need to get one of these. AccuBow did release an app. Oh, I should get one of these. I've got a phone. I think they've done VR as well, but without this is going to be awesome. I have the AccuBow. I haven't reviewed it yet, but that sounds like fun. I might contact AccuBow. There are stretching bands. What's this? The Spigarelli elbow pad training aid. Looks like a 4Master, but a different brand. Okay. That's loading. The Dry Fire Pro. Man, I haven't been this page for ages. There you go. Go back a bit. That's the AccuBow down there. I've got one of these. These are quite expensive, but they're pretty useful. Very versatile. the shot trainer, the KSL shot trainer. This is particularly designed for that. Not these ones. These are stretching bands. But this is an elbow version. Basically used to use the form master in this training routine. That's quite expensive for a shot trainer. Let's see what it is. And the Astro shot trainer. Yeah, about $60 for one of these. $40. Yeah. Oops, I just turned it off. Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. You can check it out yourself. Anyway, back to our list of questions. But yeah, that's how I recommend training. If you don't have the opportunity to shoot indoors at home, then use a training aid. It's what it's meant for. Where are we? Oh, thanks, David. I'll get back to you on that one. Maybe. I might talk to you. Archery themselves, because it's like I can pick up stuff really easily and review it. At the same time, like I also want to promote companies. Like if they're making good products, and I know Archery was a Kickstarter project. I also want to give them official recognition. Back when I asked for a review sample, they told me to buy one. So okay, fair enough. I was a lot smaller back then, but amount like that, it'd be nice to obviously review the thing. I have the Archery. I might talk to Archery directly and see if they want to send me a free sample instead. But thanks, I'll let you know if I change my mind. Anyway, back to our questions. Crazy is me. A beginner walks in. It sounds like a bad joke. What's the best way to measure growth over time? I've only had a bow for about a month. Aiming's still an issue. And I usually don't know where I'm targeting my arrow will go, but I usually hit the target. Well, how do you do progress? Okay. Alright, so for crazy is me, this question here, how do you measure progress as a beginner? Okay. I would normally say score. Okay, score is the objective measure of your skill and progression. All things considered, the score is going to be the thing. But that said, as a beginner, progress over the first few months, it's mostly going to be in your process and not your score. Ultimately, your first milestone is getting groupings. That means all your arrows, if you're shooting 3 or 6 arrows, all your arrows should be in the same spot. There are limitations depending on whether it's your own bow and how well tuned it is and how far you're shooting. But let's say at 10 meters, you should be able to get a grouping no larger than this. Okay, if all your arrows are in the same spot, that's the sign of progress. Typically, for someone starting archery after a month, they go from maybe missing the target to having all arrows on the target. Then they have all arrows in the same rough general direction, and then all arrows in a very close group. And that's a normal progression. I mean, I can go to my shooting line now, pick someone's doing for 2 months, and they'll hit gold 95% of the time, with the occasional bad shot. But yeah, your sign of progress is when you are able to consistently get groupings. Once you start getting groupings, scores start to matter. If you can't group and you're just scoring, you're doing a random number generator. It doesn't reflect your skill because these shots aren't intentional. They're landing in a spot roughly on target. When you can make the connection between what you do and where the arrow goes, that's the peak of your development as a beginner. That means you are now fully accountable for what you do on the target. Before, it was sort of like if you're shooting blind, close your eyes and you let go, then you might score a goal. But did you earn it? When you feel like you've earned every shot you've done, and more so, when you feel like you're responsible for every point you drop, that's the personal milestone as a beginner archer. So when you start getting groupings, that's the progression you want. It's how often you get the arrows together and then how tight they are. That's my abstract way of discussing how progression is measured for a beginner. Unless you score, you won't really know objectively. But until you can get to the point where score matters, then it doesn't really matter what you do. That's what I think is important for you, is knowing that what you do affects the result on the targets. Wendigo. What's the difference between Mongolian Seers and Magyar? I have no idea, honestly. I'm not the expert on traditional bows, especially the Asiatic bows. I don't actually know. That said, I did spend like a couple of days reading about Greek historical archery. I'm doing a Pop Shots video. I didn't think I would make this episode, but I actually am. So I am going to do an episode focusing on ancient Greek archery. I've read some academic papers, which is a lot of fun. Right. No, it was actually really interesting. Like getting back into reading academic papers, because like a lot of us will generalize, but sometimes you need some specific sources, and I felt like I really need to enhance my understanding and knowledge of historical archery. We get a lot of people who make videos, who do commentaries without doing any actual research. They do observations of general patterns, and the trap is that you end up talking about English longbow because everyone knows about it. So when you talk about other historical time periods, there are plenty of sources, but you might not read them. So I want to know what I'm talking about before I cover it. So look forward to that. Oh, hello, Gret Rider from Indonesia. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad you're enjoying your archery too. Questions. Anand. The parallel shaft. So Jake Kaminsky said parallel shaft arrows must be set straight to center, and you can provide it, you can prove it. Whereas the common wisdom is that parallel shafts point to the left. So in the video, he mentioned a couple of things. So when you have a plane, let's see. I'm gonna grab one of my X10s. So the barreled shafts need to be positioned differently. I'll explain the shaft, okay? So certain shafts are barreled. They might be thicker in the middle and thinner towards the ends. It's meant to be more aerodynamic, and there are tapered shafts, so it's thin towards the end as well. So the point is you have a thick section and a thin section. So the wisdom is that for barreled shafts, you're meant to keep them center shot exactly. So when you align the arrow along the bow, it's meant to be exactly center. Whereas when you're shooting a parallel shaft, then you're meant to offset it to the left to compensate for, I guess you can say that, the archer's paradox to a lesser extent. Whereas Jake has, he's pretty adamant, and he's proven through bare shaft tuning and walkback tuning that you don't need to actually do so. I don't have an opinion on this. I've been taught to keep it slightly to the left for a right-handed archer, so I follow that wisdom. Can I prove otherwise? I can't prove it. So I do personally go by the general coaching wisdom, and that is to, for a parallel shaft, make it slightly left for a right-handed shooter. Reverse that if you're left-handed. But yeah, I'm not exactly a world champion, so I can't comment on exactly how accurate it is. So I don't actually know. Satria, what are my opinions on the Cartel Sirius? I'm pretty sure I've seen this bow. Oh, it's a recurve bow. Oh, okay, that's pretty easy. The Cartel Sirius looks like a pretty typical bow. So it looks like an average beginner bow. If there's anything, it looks a little plain for a beginner bow. Like a lot of beginner bows have like a stripe or something. This is, how cheap is this? I've got to find out. If I'm buying from Arch Supplies on the eBay store, let's have a look. This is not Arch Supplies, is it? No, this is, they're taking the thumbnail from Arch Supplies. I think they used to sell this. What? $185 for this? That's Australian dollars. That's pretty normal. Yeah, that seems to be on par with basically every other bow like this. So, what are my thoughts on it? It's a generic beginner bow, so nothing unusual there. So yeah, I don't have an opinion so much as it's the same as what you get for anything else. The Semic Polaris, Polaris, for those who are picking out for that. the PC Razorback, the WMS Optimo, that price range for bows, about the $150 to $200 price range, they're basically the same bow. There's nothing really to distinguish them. It's why most archery stores will only stock one kind of beginner bow, because it's the same sort of thing. So that's the Cartel Sirius. I haven't used Black Eagle arrows before, so I can't comment on that. Yvonne, how do you get smooth back tension? Sometimes I panic during expansion through the clicker. How do I end that? Fantastic way to train. It's just simply blind bell shooting. So stand like 3 meters from the target, close your eyes, and feel the shot. That's what a good coach will get you to do regularly. Before you start shooting, do blind bell shooting. Close your eyes, go through your shot process. Many archers, me included, start shooting rounds right away without warming up with that shot process. And you don't quite get the right feeling for the entire round or the entire day. But if you start with closing your eyes and going through that warm up and feeling the shot, then that will smooth out the process. Don't allow the target to intimidate you. Remove the visual stimulus. And if you really need to focus on back tension and you want to shoot distance, remove the target entirely, and you may find yourself shooting so much better without a target. You might just put a dot on the board or something, but like, remove the target. Don't try to shoot a full round if you don't quite have the feeling of back tension down correctly. So blind ball shooting and feeling the shot expand is going to be a big push for your general feeling and performance. So that's my general recommendation for you. What are the pros and cons of using wood and feather arrows as compared to synthetic arrows? That's from HB Tempers. Good question. So wood versus synthetic arrows. The big thing here, so I'm talking about synthetic, man, like wood arrows were commonly used up to the 1970s. Then we start seeing fiberglass, aluminium especially. Aluminium was much more well known in the 1970s, and now carbon and fiberglass. Now, the big plus of a synthetic arrow compared to a wooden arrow, there are actually several. Let's go through things very quickly. So one is that you can get a stronger shaft in a much smaller diameter. So for wood arrows, you can't really change the density of wood, right? So when you're making wood arrows, if you want a heavier spine, you end up having very thick shafts. I mean, you can imagine like the English longbows, for example, like the historical war bows. They had very thick shafts, not like tree trunk shafts, but the shafts were very thick in order to use the heavy draw weights. But the problem with thick shaft would be that it has a larger diameter and therefore is more affected by wind. So it's not as aerodynamic. So you can attain much stiffer shafts for a smaller diameter. That's one big factor. You might also consider things like, I would say like durability is a thing. But normally a modern shaft is much thinner. Therefore, it will be less affected by wind drift, which is a very big thing. But the real advantage to synthetic arrows, carbon or aluminium, is guaranteed straightness. Wood isn't that straight. Even the best wooden arrows can't guarantee extreme precision in straightness. And even a few thousandths of an inch difference in straightness will severely affect the flight of the arrow. Now, if you're shooting with just general recreational standards, where if you hit the target fantastic, then you won't notice it as much. But for target shooters who are aiming at a very precise sized target, a DVD sized target, like this is like the X ring at 70 meters, right? Trying to hit this and having something that's slightly off by like half an inch or like a hundredth of an inch is going to severely affect your groupings. That's why people buy the very expensive arrows, stuff like the X10s, which cost a huge amount of money because they're guaranteed to be much straighter to a much finer tolerance. If it doesn't meet the standard, it's not used. Cheaper arrows have a larger tolerance, so it's not as precise, but they're still more precise than wooden arrows. Of the options you have now, wooden arrows are the least precise, and therefore you have the least expectation in shooting wooden arrows. That's why synthetic arrows have the advantage. They're often, especially these days, you can buy cheap carbon and cheap aluminium quite easily, but they're made to be straighter, and they're typically thinner as well. Typically, not always, but typically. Byron, by the way, has a very good point about the warm-ups. And that's being quite tight here. Like, honestly, if you don't warm up and you just jump straight to shooting around, on a good day you might drop 20 points. On a bad day, you might drop 50 points. Because depending on what round you're shooting, you might not even hit the target. Like what you would normally hit, you might completely miss. And at 50 meters, the 80 centimeter face is tiny. The 122 centimeter face, obviously is a meter wide. That's the entire target butt, right? So you can know even if you shoot poorly, you get like a 2 or 3. An 80 centimeter face has like this much margin on the sides, on both sides, right? So if you flinch and you don't quite get back tension right on a smaller target face, that's a 0. I can show you my scorecard from today, and you can see all the misses. Not because I miss a target, but because the target size is a lot smaller. So if you flinch at 50 meters and you didn't quite get back tension right, it's like a half a meter to your right or left, and that's off the target face for a small target face. So absolutely, Barry, you are correct there. That is a huge thing if you don't warm up. Chiku, that was a question I just answered on, right? So apart from the price, what's the disadvantage of using X10 arrows? Yeah, I'd say so. The thing with good arrows is that they don't make you a better archer. Using good arrows can make a good archer shoot better, but you need good form first. Now, the X10s, for example, or the ACEs, they tend to be lighter, okay? And lighter arrows are going to be more susceptible to inconsistencies in release. So if you don't have a clean release and you pluck the string, that asymmetric or that off-center movement will cause a lighter arrow to go wayward more easily. Whereas this is why aluminium is such a preferred material. It's a heavier arrow. It won't perform as well over distance, but it's more forgiving. So if you don't quite get a clean release, it won't be off. It won't go off course as easily as a light carbon arrow. So light carbon arrows will fly faster and straighter, but if you make a mistake, it's probably going to be aggravated on the board. Not always, but it's more likely to. That's probably the disadvantage of using a more expensive arrow. So you don't go straight to good arrows. You really need to tune the really good arrows and have good form to make it work. Satria, so you have the Cartel Series Edge with 26-pound draw weight. What kind of arrow suits my bow? You don't measure arrows by diameter. You measure it by spine. So you need to look at a spine chart, an arrow chart. Get your draw weight, get the length of the arrow, and match the spine to the arrow. It's not for diameter. I'm checking more of the live chat right now. Cookie Crash. Is there a maximum number of twists you can put in the string? Yeah, 50 is pretty much where you're maxing out. Some people put very few twists. Some will go up to 20 or 30. 50 is pushing it. Yeah, I'd say no more than 50. If you're doing more than 50 twists, you really need a shorter quickie cords just after buying the first bow, same age. Do I have to set the brace height each time I assemble the bow and put a string? You don't set the brace height. You might want to measure the brace height. The reasons why the brace height might change would be if you untwist your string. So you might want to be careful with how you store the string. If the string unravels, then you might have to check the brace height when you shoot. It's not gonna make that much of a difference, but yeah, you might want to measure it each time. You don't set it each time. Elevone, I like to do archery, but I'm having physio for a rotator cuff injury. That's the worst kind of archery. You're a bit worried that you might damage it again. Do you think a light draw bow would be? Yeah, like go light draw weights. If you're recovering from a rotator cuff injury, start light, like really light, like 15 pounds, and work your way up to about 20 pounds. So really light bows are actually a good way to rehab for people recovering from injuries. The rotator cuff is probably the worst one to have. But it doesn't stop you from doing it, but depending on your range of motion and how much weight you can hold, that can be absolutely bad for archers. So an archer might cause an injury by doing archery poorly, and people already have an injury. Honestly, actually, there might be one of the injuries which stop you from doing archery. The rotator cuff is super important for using a bow, and that unfortunately might be one of the things which will stop you from doing archery. But if you want to try archery, light draw weight, 15 pounds to start with, and work from there. Definitely, if you're seeing a physio and you're doing rehabilitation to recover from injury, archery is a way to do so. And some people will get back into archery or get into archery because of an injury rather than stopping them. So the answer is yes, archery can be a good way to rehab. Use a light draw weight. I haven't used the Uka X Pro 25. So I don't know anything about that, so I can't comment on the Uka X Pros. Okay, back to our questions very quickly. So we mentioned the arrows. So Jordan, I'm completely new to archery. You're watching a bunch of videos, and you've come back to my channel. How do I go about trying archery? And would I go to try both recurve and compound and find which one I liked? The answer is pretty much yes, actually. To try archery, best thing to do, go to a club or range and try it out. If you can't find a club or range, that's a little more difficult. But the number one advice for anyone getting into archery is find your closest archery range and try it there. You'll get guidance, you'll get the right equipment, and then you'll have a better idea as to what archery offers you rather than trying yourself. So always go look for your nearest club. Even if it's one off, just go once. It's worth it. Would you try both? The answer is, if possible, yes. You don't often try compounds. Compounds are very specific to the user. Recurves are a lot more flexible and who can use them. If you can try both, yes. But often it's a mentality thing, right? Compound suits people who love shooting and hitting bullseyes. Recurve suits people who go through the physical experience of shooting a bow. So they have different mentalities behind them. So if you try both, great. If you can't try it, then you can kind of figure out which one you would like more based on what you focus more on, the points and the bullseyes or the shooting itself. And yeah, you probably want to stick with one and go with that, but you might want to get a second bow later on. So that's my general advice for you. So yeah, go to a club, stick with one, or you normally learn with recurve and then switch to compound. If you can try both, and try both. And yeah, I'd recommend you stick with the one you like best. But if you want to shoot both, you can. But most people shoot one and stick with it. Pablo, my bow is like a long bow but small, maybe a short, but how do I aim with it? The arrow has to go around the riser. The same when you shoot any bow. So it doesn't matter if you shoot a long bow or a short bow. How do you aim with it? You let's grab this long bow, flat bow technically speaking. If you're going around the riser, same thing as anything else, right? So you place the arrow here and you sight with the arrow. If you might want to shoot gap, so that's a bit different. But basically, put arrow here, point towards target, adjust based on where the arrow lands. This isn't any different to any other bow, really. So yeah, there's no shouldn't be an issue with that. It's a vague question. I'm sorry, but that was it's not like it's not rocket surgery. Antonio, how much cost Panther Leo, a Python Leo? I talk about the Chaser Python or something else. I'm not sure which bow you're talking about there. How many is too many? I've got 25 bows. Sorry, did I miss something? When have I had my last haircut? I normally get a haircut every like 3 months because I time it with school holidays. So we have in Australia we have like a 10-week school term, and then we have a 2-week holiday. So I don't have time to get a haircut during the school term because I work Monday to Friday, and on weekends I shoot. So I don't have time to take out to do haircuts. So I normally to do a haircut once every 3 months. That's kind of what I do. It's unfortunate, but nah, I don't mind. I'm not that vain. You're explaining shafts, right? Yeah, look at shafts. I'll talk about shafts later. From hunting recurve to Olympic recurve, how to switch the right draw weight and limb strength? There's no measurement for transferring. Look, 40 pound is 40 pound. It's the same sort of thing. In terms of performance, it's different. Like each limb is different, each bow is different. There's no formula for that, Apollo. What is the best lightweight riser? I don't have an opinion on lightweight riser. There's no best riser. There is no best riser. You can't ask best questions here. Will I ever do a face reveal? Maybe I'll think about that. Andrew, I'm starting a beginner's course next month. Thank you, tutorials have been excellent. I'm taking ahead. I've given my own setup. Do I have an opinion on the Decade Basher Pro? I haven't seen it, but let's have a look at it. It's one of these. Let's have a look. Oh, Clicker stocks it. Decade's a pretty interesting Chinese brand. I haven't worked with Decat, honestly. Like at the moment, like every Chinese company is trying to get me to review stuff. Like I've got toe point. So if you see my bow here, so I have the toe point which I'm meant to review. Unfortunately, I've been so slow and the wind's been so hard to shoot with that I haven't had time to do this. But I have the toe point to review. That's a decent kind of riser, at least for the price range. And just while I'm here, I know a lot of you don't follow my Facebook page, so I'm going to do a quick reveal. One thing I do have over here is the Bows and Bow. I've done the Bows and Bow horn longbow, and they made a 25-inch version. So I have this bow to review. Look at this. That is awesome. Love the color. It's a pastel purple. This is the Bows and Bows horn 25-inch target recurve. So or target riser. So I had the 17-inch longbow version. This is the target version. So that's what I've got here. So point being is that all these Chinese companies, by the way, take a look. Look again. Ooh, first look. Ooh, unboxing video hashtag. But so many Chinese companies are trying to get me to review stuff for them because they've recognized, hey, this guy's making videos. And of course, Chaser was really keen to come on board. And again, I've switched my entire bow around for the Chaser because it's a great bow. So funny enough, yeah, especially Chaser. Chaser have done so much work to promote their riser. And I'm not sponsored, but I had a chance to use their bows. I'm pretty much sold on their bows. They're so good. But a lot of people are buying the Python. People who already have bows, people getting started. And yeah, I've got so many companies knocking on my virtual door and wanting to send me samples to review because the exposure is huge. It's really an understatement. And for any company who's like launching a product, like I'm not saying send me stuff, but in other industries, people like YouTubers are huge influencers. That's why we call them influencers. They can make or break a company. That's why like makeup artists, get sent free samples, product reviews. I'm like the only guy doing archery reviews of any sort. There used to be others who do pro shops. I mean, shops will do reviews, but as an independent freelancer, basically, it's very influential, where you get tens of thousands of people looking for product information, and getting stuff in my hands is a good way to amplify your outreach. And that's why companies do this. Now, back when I was smaller, we had like 5,000 subscribers, that wasn't so much a big an issue. I had like 3 rivers reach out to say, we want to sponsor you for a video, great. But now it's like, I'm nearly 100,000. I'm getting there, right? You can imagine how many potential buyers you have for your market. I know around like 5 people in person who've bought the Python, and that's just in person. Can you imagine how many more people outside of that have bought the Python? So one of the best moves was sending me a Python. It's like an $800 riser, Australian dollars. It's I think like $6.99 or $7.99 US. Great riser. So yeah, a bit of a sidetrack there, but the point I was making is that when I see something like the deck cut, I should know this, but some Chinese companies just haven't reached out to me yet. Junsing haven't reached out to me. I had a distributor offer to do so, but they couldn't get in touch with Junsing. But Deckcut is one company which I wouldn't mind reviewing. So the question was, is the Basher Pro a decent riser? There is no reason why this would not be a decent riser for a beginner intermediate shooter. This looks very much like an inexpensive Hoyt bow, so more like the really cheap, more like the Hoyt Excel or Horizon, and the SF kind of like premium level, not the Forge. So this is, I think, a pretty good riser for the price. Just looking at it, I haven't used it, so I don't know if it's that good, but it seems to offer everything that a typical target riser has. Clickers Archery is a good company. They're a good store, so a lot of people buy from this. This is if they stock it, I would trust it. So I think the Deckard Basher Pro would be a good option to look at if you're buying for a low price. I haven't used it, so I can't say for sure how good it is, but I'm definitely in favor of like a lot of the current Chinese companies are making really good product, and they're trying to break to the market now. It's an interesting shift. We're going like, I mean, a lot of people living in Asia can't buy a lot of the top end gear, so they're buying off eBay and AliExpress. So that's it's quite lucrative for a potential new company to sell well manufactured target risers, not knockoffs, not copies, but proper bows. Toe Point's a good example. They used to go from like really cheap, like knockoff like risers. Like I did the R2, which is really mediocre. Wasn't a bad bow, wasn't a great one either, but really bad kits. And there is a reputation. Again, Toe Point's actually responsible for the reputation of Chinese knockoffs. So Toe Point was banned from the ATA for that reason. So Chinese companies have a lot of bad rep, but that doesn't mean all of them are just making knockoffs. Deckard, I think, seems quite legitimate. Chaser, very legitimate design there. And Toe Point's trying to come back with some decent designs too. So don't knock off Chinese companies right away. There are a lot of things which are trying to disprove. So I was just reading. Yeah, Byron, I agree. Like Deckard is a rising brand. It's like Chaser, except Deckard makes more budget stuff. It's like Deckard's kind of like the cartel of Chinese companies, right? I mean, cartel's probably made in China anyway. But like you have like the budget, the stuff which is really meant for budget. So cartel make like accessories, like plunger buttons, side string jigs, and bows. And I think Deckard is the same kind of budget price range. So I would agree. They make some good stuff there. Yes, David, I just had a chuckle there. I've got like literally down here, David, I have the Toe Point Unison, the Elven Ranger bow. I've got a fiberglass youth bow, and I've got the bows and bow horn and the bows and bow limbs, and I have the Semic bear hunter. That's 5 bows, literally down there at my foot. I've got like one more youth over there, and I have them over here. No, I don't. I've got here right now. So in terms of like bows, there's literally 5 or 6 around me. I normally try to remember to bring them both the live streams, especially form checks. When I forget, there's always one here somewhere. I've got a lot of stuff. Yes, no, what was I? Jimmy, I noticed I'm more consistent when I rotate my bow hand elbow, but my bow ends up trembling and shaking a lot. What can I do to improve this? I guess one thing is if it's trembling, often it's a back tension issue. Okay, so just be careful with how you turn your elbow. Right, if you're overturning, you might be putting more strain on your tricep. So if you're trembling because of the rotation, then you might want to even out your push pull for your shot process. So try to work on your back tension and focus less on pushing forward with your thing. Trembling often happens when you're stressful in your hand and you're pushing forward a lot. That's usually the case. That's all I can say right now. Let's see, but yeah, that's trembling happens either if the bow it's too heavy, but if it's your bow hand, relax the hand, push forward, but balance it out by pulling back more on this end. That's kind of what I would try to aim for. Let's see. Oh, so talk about Apogla, the lengths. Again, each bow is different, so there is no like standard formula for this one, right? So look, the performance of a shorter bow compared to a longer bow is going to be different. It will stack differently. It will have a different power stroke. It will accelerate differently. There is no charter formula as far as I know. Apoglo again, the Fivix Riser. Fivix is a very good company. It's not one of the top like 2 like Hoyt to Win. Fivix is very good. They've released a good line of risers. The Titan is one of the newer ones. That's a top end riser. I mean, they make the equivalent of all the top end middle range risers. I had been contacted by Fivix to look at some of the risers. There's a new USA branch, but they're just starting out there. There's not much out there for me to review, so I have been contacted by Fivix. I do use Fivix gear, not the risers, but they are good risers. I haven't had a chance to use them yet, but they do look very promising. Funny thing is that they don't want to let me keep the riser. They want me to send it back. So that was kind of the arrangement. They don't have much stock apparently, so they don't want to send me like $1,000 riser and then not have it back. I don't really want $1,000 riser, but you know, like the whole point if you send free samples, and as a courtesy, you give them the free sample. You don't make them send it back, unless it's like a really rare piece of equipment, which makes sense. You have to like borrow it and give it back. But the thing is that like, why would I review something if I get nothing out of it, right? So like, it's a lot of time of my schedule to review a product. If I don't like, I can't get paid for this. If I ask for payment, it's a paid promotion, and I'm very biased. So, like the whole point is to get an influencer properly. You need to give them a free sample, not borrow it or lend it. So, a little awkward there. So, I'm trying to figure out if you can get some way to review their stuff. But they can't give them like the half the inventory. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, now Fivix is a very good brand. Even without using it, I know it's a good brand. It's a Korean company. They do have a few sponsorships. They do quite well in tournaments. So yeah, if you can get Fivix, they're excellent risers. Well, how are we? Oh, it's been 2 hours. Wow, great. Let's do a few more quick questions. Can I explain how IOF works? I've covered this question. I think P3 Gaming already has this question answered. As I said before, the point of the IOF, in fact, we'll do the whole thing again. Where I've got the we'll grab the bear hunter again. Just puts up to be here. So IOF, like I said before, is the bolt is loose. Yes, you click it in there, but when you string it, the limb is pushed against the limb bolt and holds it in place. That's why it works. It's loose here because there's nothing holding in place. The tension, when the limbs are placed under tension, when it's strung, that's what makes it hold in place. That's how it works. It may seem counterintuitive to people who aren't used to modern bows, but that's actually how it works. And just because I put it here, we have the toe point. We'll bring it back. So you got like this bow, fully strung. It's flush against the limb bolt because again, the whole thing is under tension, and that means that it's not going to be loose or rattle. That's how it works. So when it's not under tension, nothing's holding in place, it'll be loose. When something is under tension, it's in place, it stays in place. That's how it works. It's a very good system. It was invented by Hoyt. So the Hoyt, it was originally called the HDS, or the Hoyt dovetail system. And every Hoyt bow used it. And now everybody uses it. Nearly everybody uses it. What was that? Yes, yep, cool. Let's see. Back to our question feed. I mean, there weren't many questions this time around, so I opened it quite late, but that's a lot of good stuff here. Other videos, maybe. I just don't have time to make videos because it's a sacrifice between training and making videos. If I'm not making videos, then I'm not gonna train right now. It's really badly balanced right now. Joseph, I'm not sure. Hooking upwards. I've read inside the eye. I think Morton in chat right now might know more about this than I do. Let's see. Do you hooking upwards? Do you have to tilt your hand downwards at the wrist to achieve that? Another thing I don't understand: if you line up your string to rise, okay, on the right side, are you not aiming to the left? All right. I can't answer the this one. One, I'm not familiar with this, and two, I'm not trained in the Kiesig Lee method. I've read about it, but I haven't trained it. I can't answer this question fairly and accurately. But for this, so if you are aligning your string with the right side of the aperture or the riser, are you not aiming to the left? And the answer is no, you're not aiming to the left. Alright. It's not Kato's Korean. I was say this when you align sight, right? You're not turning the bow that way to achieve the alignment on this side. You're actually turning your head to get to the sight alignment. The thing is that this is consistent. You're not. Let's try this again. By picking a point to align the string with, you are not changing the direction of the bow. You align the string so that when you set your head position, it is parallel to where the sight is pointing. The sight is pointing in the same direction each time, no matter the distance, because you are lining up this way. So when you look at the target, there should be a consistent picture. And the string and the sight are in line with the target and your eye line. Okay, so no, you're not pointing left. There's no reason to be pointing left. If you configure your sight to be in the same spot and you match that sight picture, it would be the same at every distance. It would not be. You wouldn't have to change your windage or your horizontal each time you change distance. So it might seem counterintuitive to you perhaps, but it's actually, you're not aiming off to the left. You're aiming straight, and the point of the string being on the side of the sight or the riser, the whole point of that is to get that alignment correctly. That's a really bad example. Let's try this, right? So the whole point of this is that this is going to be the same no matter what distance you are. So you're hitting here, and you shoot 10 meters or 50 meters or 70 meters, it's going to look the same. So no, you're not aiming off to the left. And that's the last question there, I think, from the official set. Elevan has a question actually. You're in chat right now. There's a question here. Okay, the multi arrows. I will do a video on the multi arrows at some point, but to do it very briefly, it is physically possible to shoot multiple arrows from a bow. The problem is that you can't aim multiple arrows from a bow. The arrows will probably collide with each other in mid-flight. You can't like point 3 arrows and shoot 3 guys in a fan pattern. That's how it works. The other huge problem with multiple arrows is that you lose energy, okay? Because there's finite energy. You don't gain extra energy. So if you are shooting 2 arrows at once, each arrow has half the energy of 1 arrow, or you shoot just 1 arrow. If you have 3 or 4, it's even less because your bow only has a finite amount of energy to transfer. The more the more things you have to push out, whether it's 1 super heavy arrow or 4 light arrows, it's going to have less energy per arrow, right? So that's the big thing people underestimate, is how much energy you lose. You can hit things with multi-shots, but they're not going to do as much damage as what you think they would. It kind of renders the bow kind of useless in many ways. And that's our last question from the official set. We'll take some last live questions. It's been a 2-hour stream, surprisingly. Started a little slow, but now I'm a little more hydrated. I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'll probably find some food to eat. Munch on. Alright. Thank you, Jin. Jin NUSensei. Glad that you are learning a lot. I've been making a lot of videos recently. Again, winter is really, really hard to make stuff. It's just the time. I mean, when you have like, if the sun goes down at like 9 p.m, that's so much time to make content. I can make like, even after a work day, I can make 3 or 4 videos during summer. But in winter, sun goes down. Like I finish work at maybe 4:30, 5:30 sometimes, and sun's already down, so I can't film anything. What if my string loop tears off a little? Which part of the string loop, eToro? I would talk about the serving, like this part over here. If that part starts to come loose, it's time to get a new string. It's very hard to fix the end loop itself. Right, if it's that part, if the serving's coming off, the string's usable. That's fine. But once the string itself starts getting frayed, time for a new string. I have ignored tears in the loop before, and I have had the string snap on me. So yeah, seems like the top right. Yeah. Over time, it will eventually snap. Like I just said, I have shot a string that was that I was really lazy in getting it replaced because I didn't want to. And I was new back then too. I didn't know what it meant. But the string had been nicked, and over time, it snapped. The bow snapped when I shot it. The funny thing is that with these loop failures, it doesn't snap when you pull it back. It snaps when you let go. So you end up having it doesn't dry fire. In fact, I didn't know that the string snapped because I shot and it hit gold at 30 meters. It was a perfect shot, hit the bullseye, but the string snapped. So that was the end of my round. So yeah, you might want to watch out for your top loop. Probably friction for me, in my case. Can you define what tearing off means? I'm not sure what you mean by tearing off. Is the serving thread cut and coming loose? Or is the string being cut through? I don't know what you mean by tearing off. Menzo, what's the difference between Hoyt recurves and others like Win and Win? Not a whole lot. Most Hoyt bows use the formula system, which is a different limb bolt system. I'm sure Hoyt will claim it has like X% better performance. I can't measure that. I don't know. A lot of Hoyt, the Hoyt Grand Prix limbs and riders are IOF. So Formula is the round system. Grand Prix is the IOF system. So a lot of Hoyt bows do come in both or either. So that alone isn't a big factor. So yeah, like if you, I imagine you're asking like what makes them better. I don't really know. I'm sure there's an engineering reason and it changed the geometry of the bow, but I can't objectively explain why Hoyt bows are better or different. They're just different. Okay, Hoyt, they have their secrets. Gret Rider, what is your opinion on my 36-pound limbs using a heavy arrow, which is 34 grams compared measured with fiber spine? Grams or grains? Grams, right? Is it okay to me or do I need to change? If it shoots fine, it shoots fine. You don't need my opinion on that. If it doesn't check fine, then yeah, it's different. Yeah, the serving thread eToro, it's still usable, but if the string gets damaged, the string itself gets damaged because it's exposed, then it's time for a new string. Or you can fix the thread on the loop. It's hard to fix the loop itself because it's if it's at the center serving or the bottom part of the loop, then we can fix that easily. But if it's the loop itself, that's kind of really hard to fix. You can do like temporary things like putting tape over it. But yeah, if the string itself is worn through, time to get a new string. Hi Thor, you're just in time to say goodbye. I think we're done. So it's been a 2-hour stream. Wow, 2-hour stream. Did not realize that. So yes, I think we've covered all the questions we've covered. If you want to get more live streams, send me form checks. That's the other thing I'll live stream for. Otherwise, it'll be this time next month. We'll be taking a look at our next Q&A. So thank you all for joining me tonight. Hopefully you've learned a lot. And we'll hopefully see you all next time. Thank you everybody. Take care. This is NUSensei out.